Fashion is one of the most fascinating elements in our culture today.
And I think lots of people look at us and think, how can God be in the fashion industry?
And I come to the conclusion that actually God is really interested in this world of fashion. A lot of people look at the world of fashion and they ask a lot of questions about its priorities, the image it portrays and so on. And particularly in the church, I think a lot of people would ask the question, what does God make of this industry? That's an issue that I've been thinking about over 30 years as I've worked in the world of fashion. And I come to the conclusion that actually God is really interested in this world of fashion. What makes me think that? Well, if we look at the beginning of the Bible, God created. He's a God of creativity, and fashion is just one of those areas that really focuses on creativity. And what did he do first? He created the seasons. So the idea that fashion changes a lot, again, I think reflects God's heart. All the way through the Bible, clothing and fashion imagery jump out of the pages at us. In the New Testament, the first Christian in Europe was Lydia, a dealer in purple cloth. Even the Apostle Paul, not probably seen by most as an advocate for fashion, uses clothing imagery, clothe yourselves in compassion. And he talks about putting on the full armour of God and goes through the individual items of clothing. The image we get of Jesus in heaven is what he's wearing with a gold sash around his chest. And then the New Jerusalem comes down. What are we told about it? Dressed as a bride. So I think God and fashion really are closely linked, and if we think that they're not, we're getting it wrong.
When designers ask me about fashion, because they're always so interested when they walk into a church building or into a cathedral and they see the stained glass windows, and what they see there, these beautiful figures and Jesus wearing beautiful clothes and cloak and all that kind of stuff. So right there in the center of our worship, there are so many elements in which fashion belongs into that conversation between church and culture.
And then the world of fashion, it's a global industry providing opportunity for millions of people in every culture, every country in the world. And again, God is the creator of the whole earth, so I think that reflects his lordship over the whole earth.
And just to see what God has done in the fashion industry has been the most incredible blessing. I've seen people get jobs, I've seen people supported, I've seen people mentored. And I think lots of people look at us and think, how can God be in the fashion industry? And I truly believe that God is there in any sector, in every business. The most important thing is that you just connect with him, you call him into that industry, and you just honour him.
Does the fashion industry get it right all the time? No, it doesn't, clearly. If we look at the supply chain for the clothes that most of us wear, as a consumer, we have endless supplies of cheap clothing. But who pays the price for that? Really, it's at the other end of the supply chain, where the people who make it, the people who dye the clothes, even the farmers who grow the crops, they get so little benefit. Quite often they can't even live on the earnings they get from it. As God looks down, I'm sure he must question the justice of that, and he'd long to see the fashion industry showing more compassion so that everybody is blessed by their part, the part they play in that supply chain. And then if you look at the whole area of image, which is central to fashion, we're made in God's image. We each have our own gifts, we have our own experience, our own opportunities, and if we know who we are, what our identity is, we can use clothes to express that identity. But if we want to be someone else, if we want to create an image for ourselves, actually we dress to impress. And I think that's something where so many people get themselves tangled up just who they are. And one of the big issues I've had to face over recent years is the issue of skinny models and anorexia and bulimia. And really lying behind that is people trying to be someone they're not, trying to copy the images they see. And that can lead to all sorts of problems.
But there is another issue here that I feel is equally important, which is the issue of sustainability. This is a huge issue for the fashion industry as much as it's for the church. And we needed to be able to find ways of having that conversation and dialogue better with how we are prepared as Christians and as a Christian faith to really embrace this conversation.
And then another issue was, should we pay people or not? Young people in particular who want to work in the world of fashion, and it's the same in politics and many of the other creative industries. They expect to do unpaid internships, and of course this can then become basically unpaid work. And it's something which was rife in the fashion industry. And even though employers and designers in particular, they have a queue of people wanting to get experience, to get that experience on their CV. Actually, if they're doing the work, they should be paid for that. And that for me was a really important issue, because it reflects the principle that if we do work, we should be paid for it. It's something which is there in the Bible. I think it's how we value people, particularly how we value young people. And it all comes down to, do we exploit people or do we support them as they move forward in their careers? And I think that's a really important principle for Christians as they live out their life of faith in the day-to-day.
And I used to pray, Father, just bring the Christians out of the shadows in the fashion industry. And time again, he's done that. And just the fire and the passion that we have when we get together and pray. And to honour our beloved Lord, we always finish every meeting with the Lord's Prayer. It's kind of the thing that we always do.
So I think as God looks down, he would love the world of fashion and the potential that it has, the creativity it can express and engage with. But I think priorities he would have would be justice and compassion and untangling image and identity, so that people are served by fashion rather than being slaves to fashion. And these are all issues I look at in a book I've recently brought out called The Character of Fashion, which asks the question, if God was the boss, how would he run it? And I think those are the things that he would focus on.
There is a huge amount of people who actually are Christians work in the fashion industry. And when that is happening, I get texts from them saying, "Hi Rev, are you around? Can we have a cup of tea? It'd be really great, to catch up with you." And there's a community there. And there's a wonderful opportunity to support those guys who are working there during that time.
We'd already started praying every Saturday of London Fashion Week at Somerset House, which is now in the heart of Soho. And from that, the whole ministry of Fashion for Christ has just built and built and built. And it started with just one simple prayer: Lord, let there be light in an industry that so desperately needs you. And really, we're just built on prayer. And God has blessed us so much. Our membership is huge. We have all sorts of people from the fashion industry. So we have people that work in retail, we have buyers, we have merchandisers, we have PR people, we have marketing people. And we also gather every month. And then quite a few years ago, I reached out to Models for Christ, which is now called G-Moda, which is an incredible ministry that has been going for over 30 years in the States and now has got a sort of a global presence. And we really partner with them. So we've really learnt in their shadow how to do this. And the leadership now, I've really passed that on, the day-to-day leadership, to other people so that they can blossom and grow. I feel that passing the baton on is really important, and the more we do that, the more we will flourish. So our Father and our precious Jesus is so welcome in the fashion industry.